Thanks, Chris. Really a pleasure to be here today. So, what I want to talk about is how you get to great AI. And to get to great AI, you got to get there through data, right? So, Business Data Cloud is absolutely revolutionizing how SAP does this. As always, if I talk about the future and it's not a generally released product, it might change. Just want to put that disclaimer up there. But, I think we've been at this exact spot for quite a while. Gen AI really caused a revolution, but everybody's wondering, can they trust it with their business processes? At the same time, nobody wants to miss out, right? There's a fear of missing out that's going on. But what I find really interesting in the latest Gartner chart is this part. AI agents and AI ready data is at the top of the hype cycle right now. But if you look at the color coding, AI data is still predicted to be 5 to 10 years out. And I have no idea personally how you can have AI agents if your data is not right. So there's kind of a interesting thing happening there on the hype cycle itself. I present to a lot of live audiences. I know I can't ask the audience today, but when I ask this question, is AI the fourth industrial revolution? And my industrial revolutions are shown in pink there. Everybody says yes, it's going to be as big an effect as the steam engine was, or electricity was, or compute was. It's going to change the world. And if you think about it, when I ask this question, people wonder, but is it really the next renaissance? But if you think about creativity and scientific discovery and the democratization of knowledge, yeah, there's a chance that it's going to change the way we live entirely. If you don't believe me, just put this prompt in to Gemini and and ask about what scientific discoveries are happening because of Gen AI. The list is incredible and it's long. And so, too often, I think us technologists talk about the technology itself, but there's a lot of other thresholds, not just that the technology can get it done, right? Will society accept it? Is a really, really big question to ask. 150 years ago, the newest technology was this one. Otis Elevator put elevators in every tall building, but nobody rode them because it looked like a death trap to people. They continued to walk the stairs. It took a long time before society got over it. We had to put mirrors in there. We had to put Muzak in there. We had to put a guy in there to press the buttons so somebody could say, hey, that guy hasn't died yet. So therefore, the technology must be safe. 150 years later, we now ride on the side of a skyscraper looking outside the glass box, or we ride up 100 stories looking down a glass floor at the CN Tower. So it does sometimes take society a long time to get to that point. This is today's elevator. I happen to know if I had an audience here and I asked how many people have been in a driverless Waymo, the answer is less than 10%. Not everybody is trusting that the technology is good enough to put themselves in it yet, right? So an interesting question to think about is the error rate significantly superior to humans, and should we use it? I don't think people realize, but we have a lot of tolerance for humans making a mistake, but not for technology. We think it shows a failure of the entire system. And more importantly, will liability legislation actually support the stance? It's a really important question. So it is really a good reason to partner with SAP. SAP is the right partner to make sure that you use AI in a reliable, responsible way so that you have the human in the loop and you make sure that you apply it in such a way that it makes sense. We're on this journey right now toward AI agents. The first couple of steps here took a really long time to get through. But at this moment in time, we're roughly here, right? We're going from multimodal agents to multi-agents. And pretty soon, agents are going to start replicating themselves. I think AGI is going to be very helpful, right? It's going to help us get the job done. It's not going to be the Terminator. It's going to be more like helpful minions. But the whole point is there's no doubt in my mind that we're headed this way. If you don't think it's going to change your job, Doug McMillan from Walmart disagrees. Every large successful business is really the sum of its business processes. And AI is going to change everything. It's dramatic. And so when I ask this question, I find out that the audience always agrees. Everybody believes that AI is going to become an important part of the business process. The question to think about, though, is can great AI happen in business without great quality, near real-time, company-specific data? The answer is no. It won't work for your business unless you get to this point. McKinsey put it this way. Data products are crucial, right? Data without being a data product is like crude oil without a refinery. There is little value in its raw form. And so we're at this moment in time where data and AI are absolutely colliding, and we have to solve the problem. The rate of data creation is mind-boggling. If you think about things in terms of the largest library on earth, which is the Library of Congress, right? 175 zettabytes is the equivalent of 800 million libraries of Congress. And that's where we're at today. It's about to grow much faster, right? It's also equivalent to 23,000 times the grains of sand on Earth. So it's an amazing number. In the meantime, Gen AI is getting incredibly powerful. If you look at where we were just the middle of last year to where we are now, it's changing dramatically. The models are huge. And the two sides of this are incredible, right? They both have to work together. AI and data fabric are crucially important that you can't separate them at all. So the problem, of course, is the data wrangling has been hard. I was calling out a chemical manufacturer recently that has a really top-notch IT department. And they said, look, for 10 years, we've tried to move all our data out of applications into our data lake. We used every tool under the sun. We tried to rebuild that context all the time, but it really has hindered our progress. We need help. And they're coming back to SAP to talk about that because it has to all work well together. And so, will AI change all business? I think the answer is yes. The only problem right now is that there's still a little bit of an expectations gap. Management thinks it should be farther along based on what they see, but the truth is it's got to be part of your business processes. A great way to look at it is that leadership in most corporations has 200-mile-an-hour expectations, but we've got kind of a school zone speed limit when it comes to the data itself. Data's evolved over the years, just like F1 cars have, right? We started with relational databases. Those were around for quite a while. We finally got the data warehouses with technologies like HANA and Columnar and all that stuff. The data lake started filling up with all this data that we weren't using, but it was coming off of sensors. Cloud computing came along and we were able to split the compute and the storage to make it more efficient. But then the lakehouse finally let us use some of that data well. And today we're combining knowledge graphs using vector to try to make all this stuff make sense, both the structured and the unstructured together. SAP started thinking about the problem a little differently. We kind of separated it into three different layers, and we separated out data as the foundation for AI that is being fed by the applications. This really changed our perspective. We used to ship you great tools and great parts, but we expected you to build your own race car. Now we're delivering the data as a software as a service, where we're assembling that race car for you. We launched BDC in 2025, and we worked with key partners to make this software as a service. The first partners were Databricks, Calibra, Confluent, and Data Robot. It introduced this idea of data products to the ecosystem, right, to get you better quality. Intelligent apps are how you actually felt the value right out of the box. These are apps were built on top of those data products. It enabled a data fabric that was zero copy, so you stop maintaining all the data movement that's out there. We partnered with Calibra specifically to kind of give you this idea of how do you understand and govern the data, know where the data is across your entire data estate. We offered a great path to move forward for your legacy BW systems to have a lot of historical data. And ultimately, we combined the best of SAP and the best of Databricks to power ML and AI. Since then, Google, Microsoft, and Snowflake all noticed. And so they've also joined the party. So now it's not just Databricks. All four of them are a key part of what we're doing with BDC. You'll see this chart a lot when you have an SAP presentation, right? The applications are feeding this entire environment, but the part that's easily overlooked is this little area right here. What that area really is how difficult this unified data platform was to achieve. Many companies, had these hugely complex tables. The entities were different in different applications. The structures evolved over a lot of years. Ultimately, companies often did mergers and acquisitions and decentralized decisions, and it can continue to complicate that environment. The five highlights of what we did with BDC are we first created this unified data across structured and non-structured working with Databricks. We then extended the structure to Google Cloud, to Snowflake, to Fabric. So all the partners are now working in the same playground, making sure you got great data that's going to drive AI. We then made sure that we had these data products where there's well-described data elements, right? That you can now find them, you can now reuse them. You don't have to redo the work over and over and over. SAP is working on giving you those data products for all our components on the upper left-hand area, but there's also the ability to accommodate custom managed products, including BW in the lower area. So it's got extensibility. McKinsey puts it this way. New use cases are about 90% faster after you've established this in your environment. And ultimately, you save at least 30% because that doesn't even include the governance benefits. You then render this all through intelligent apps. These apps are ready to go. This is a starter kit, right? But there's a lot of work that goes in these. We're trying to save you 80% of the cost. But if you had to do this the old way, like back in 2024, when we gave you the parts, the tools to make it yourself, it would have taken 36 different data sets, 200 different CDS views, lots of local tables in DataSphere to accomplish this one intelligent app. So the work is incredible. And yes, you can extend that app if you need to, right? So a lot of companies have jumped on board. More than 1,000 enterprises have licensed SAP BDC in 2025. It's SAP's fastest growing SaaS launch of all time. Let me just give you one customer story that helps accentuate what we're doing here, right? And so Messer is one of the large companies that supplies industrial strength gases to everybody, right? They had a huge problem during COVID. They had to get oxygen to the right place at the right time to save people's lives. And they realized that their data availability was really causing them problems and trying to get that challenge solved. They decided to set up everything that they need to do a data-driven enterprise. So they used a lot of these tools that I've talked about. They combined Analytics Cloud with DataSphere, with data intelligence to make sure that they established a world-class approach to data governance and the combination of both SAP and non-SAP data. They were able to achieve this. They kind of established a single version of the truth in a short time. And ultimately, they're now that we came out with BDC, they're like, oh my goodness, all that work we've done is done for us now and maintained by SAP within BDC. And so they're adopting BDC to simplify all their data management. The outcomes were great, right? They were able to meet the oxygen needs. They were able to save lives. It's made their company much more efficient. In fact, David Johnston, who's the CIO, talks at a lot of different conferences. And I got this quote from a conference he did where I was at, right? Building this harmonized layer across SAP and non-SAP, cloud and on-premise, absolutely made the most of the investments that they'd already made in SAP, Azure, Salesforce, and Oracle. And so the key takeaways from my presentation today, there's a lot here, and there's a lot of materials that you can find at sap.com/BDC. There's going to be a great video, by the way, in our booth here at the TDWI virtual booth. But if you get a chance to watch it, Henkel talks about how this has really revolutionized their world. But I'm doing this in David Letterman fashion, by the way. So number 5. Adopt a data products model. It's going to help you innovate much more quickly. And of course, stop duplicating the data. That's available to you now with BDC and zero copy share. If you manage and refine your data assets to be, you're going to be ready for that moment when AI agents all start becoming a key part of the business process. That expectations gap is closing incredibly quickly. SAP BDC will help you get more value out of everything you've already invested in, whether it's Snowflake or Databricks or Azure Data Lake. All those data lake projects are suddenly going to get fresh transactional data from SAP, and everything's going to work well together. And number 1, BDC truly will help you become data driven, not only for AI, which is crucially important, but also for your own decision making. So, Chris, that's all I have. I guess back to you.